Hey, gang, welcome back to Tuesday edition of Money and Politics. And we're going to be continuing to follow the Humbl story, which I don't know. I kind of feel like I had a financial near-death experience today. I mean, we started off after yesterday's horrible fall of 36%, and we ended up with it going down another 18%. So that's almost 56%, and it was down much worse than this because it closed at $1.35 today, down 30 cents, as we say, from yesterday. But it got down as low as $1.08 earlier in the day. And we can see, it doesn't quite say this, but it got down to $1.08. And then we had a nice run up, and it looked like, hey, maybe happy days are here again. We got up to about $1.72. $1.75, it says, was the high. So you had some of the brave souls going in here at just above a buck and picking up 70% or so. And here this was at Central Time, 9:44. And so let me just go by Eastern Time and make it simple. We got the capitulation down here at about 10:44 Eastern, and about an hour, almost an hour exactly later, you could have been up 70%. Now, as the stock came out, and after yesterday's 36.6% runoff, fall off, Brian Foote put out, as you can see here, just as the market opened today, that we have noted some concerns. I would think so. We have noted some concerns regarding the Series B preferred shares, of which I own 45%, that are not eligible to be converted until December of this year, December of 21. Mr. Foote says, I will commit to not sell any of those personal shares for the entirety of the calendar year 2021-2022. I have a question. Did you mean the calendar years, plural? I think he meant years, any of the calendar years. So I think he means throughout 2021, which he couldn't even sell any of those shares until December of this year. So he must be referring for the full year from December of 2021 to December of 2022. So that came out at the market open, but you know, it was something. It wasn't, I think, all that people wanted. And frankly, I would say to the Humbl management that you would be, I think, well advised to have another investment call on this Series B preferred shares. You're on the OTC, you're not on the New York Stock Exchange, you're not dealing with a whole lot of professional investors. Because this is a low price stock, it used to be a penny stock. It almost went back to being a penny stock. You know, you're dealing with a lot of new investors who are not familiar with the Series B, the preferred shares and all what that means. And you can see what has happened. Now, George Sharp put out a tweet where he was referring what someone else said, that this was discussed before in our investor call of February. It was mentioned, and I remember at the time thinking, well, that makes sense, because those people who were the early investors in Humbl, who, when it was Block 30 Labs and put money behind Mr. Foote, that those people ought to have their equity preserved. When Block 30 merged with the flooring company, Tesoro Enterprises, which is where people will remember, hopefully, why we had the TSNP symbol initially. When Block 30 merged, all of the Tesoro Enterprises had all the assets of Humbl. And of course, if I had been one of the early investors and put in $1 million or $3 million behind Mr. Foote, I'd want to make sure I had, my equity preserved. And so that was the idea, I believe, as it was explained on that investor call back in February, of having the preferred shares. What I don't remember ever being said was that it was a 1 per 10,000, that for every one preferred share, you got 10,000 of the common. I think that's the problem that people are having, in my humble opinion. And I suppose I do mean the pun, but sincerely, I think it was the number of shares that was shocking. And I think when that came out, especially after, as I think everyone knows, a lot of investors felt burned by the reverse split. I thought it was a good move to consolidate, not have 4 billion shares out there and go down to about 1 billion. But then I think what's happening psychologically, and you see why we're falling like this, 36.6% yesterday, down 18% now. But again, we were down much further earlier in the day. And the point is, I think that we see the expansion of these preferred shares would dilute the equity of the common shareholder. That's to me the nub of all of this sell-off, aside from whatever short interest there is. So my thought would be that it would be good for Mr. Foote to come back and have a frank talk about this and reassure, or at least make sure you're getting rid of any rumors or speculation, just to clarify the situation. I think that would be very good. Now, as I look over at the Twitter feed on Humbl, and it's saying, Brian and Humbl team, whatever they say or do, know this: there are more for you than against you. I think everyone will understand that through the entirety of my channel, which started January 25 with me doing my videos, I've probably done about 95% of my videos on Humbl, and every one of them has been supportive of the concept of the management team. And, so I'm hardly a harping critic. But I am in the communication field. I'm a journalist by day. I've been, in the communication field for a couple of decades now. And I would just say that that's when you have something like this is kind of crisis communication. You need to get out ahead of the story, because if you don't get out ahead of the story, then rumors start going around and other people start telling the story, and then it's harder to get back and ahead of the story, right? So you get the gold panda. I was corrected, it's not golden panda, it's gold panda. But you get someone like him telling your story, and you want to tell your own story. All right, that's the end of my advice right there. What else? Well, what else is that we can overcome this. We pushed out a lot of investors. Some of them were speculators, as I said yesterday. So you got some flippers. We have still a lot of achievements that have been made. We got the ETXs out, and this is the chart from before. So that, let me take the midstream. I don't know how many ETX signups we have, and maybe that could be, hopefully that'll become a little easier. I've had some people private message me and say that, it wasn't always as smooth as they hoped it would be, not necessarily on behalf of Humbl, but just because you got to sign up for these third parties like Bittrex and Coin Plus and stuff. But look, if you had 1 million subscribers at $5 a month, that's $5 million a month times 12 is $60 million a year. We have Tickery. That, as I said yesterday, I believe did $40 million last year during the COVID shutdown. And so who knows what it'll be this year? Could it do twice as much? I speculated maybe they could do 60 million. So if in a year from now you could have Tickery having done 60 and you could have a million subs from around the world, because that's out there, and you're going to have, by then you'll have the app will have been out around the world for 9 months, 10 months by that point. You'll have all the other aspects of what we know. Brian, by the way, also said, Brian Foote, also said today, and I wanted to bring that up, that they're looking at other acquisitions, which I kind of thought they would be. This is another reason why it's in the company's interest to get that. I mean, I'm not telling Brian Foote anything he doesn't know, but to get that stock price back up. And, let's look back. Just 5 days ago, we were at 380. And when we go back to a month ago, what's the high? About 380 or so. So, if we can go back to the $4 range 6 months ago, we had this was speculative. I knew at the time this wasn't sustainable, but over in this area was, and of course I was hoping that we would go from the mid $3 range to about $5 by around the 4th of July. Is that still doable? I think it is. By the middle of July, we are going to have, as I said yesterday, the second quarter earnings report coming out for April, May, June, May, April, May, and June. We're going to have the second quarter earnings coming out. And then we'll have some numbers that are meaningful. As we go forward then, the third quarter, the fourth quarter, we get that above $4, $5, who knows where it could be. I had, before this sell-off, speculated that Humbl could be, I know some people think it's going to be $20 by the end of the year. I don't think so, frankly. But I think it could be $8. I think it could be $10. Look, folks, if you're at $1.35, should you buy now? That's a personal, as I say every day, that's a personal decision. We had one guy drop out, and I felt badly because he said he was a laborer, and his bubble of dreaming he could make money in the market popped, and that he's lamenting now. Apparently his lot in life is just to be a laborer. That is painful for me to read personally, because what I am about is all about trying to tell people that they can make money in the market. They can grow their wealth. You got to be able to have money in there that you can afford not to lose, but to keep in there. I don't think Humbl's going to zero. And I think when we went down to $1 today, down here in the trough, in my mind, that was a real overreaction. And you can see the volume spiking there. But folks, here's the deal. I think if you bought here, and we went back to where we were just a couple of days ago, you'd be at 335. That would be a $2 move on a $1.35 stock. That's a heck of a rate of return. If at this point, if we finish the year at $3.50, you would have a heck of a rate of return. You'd be up over 100% on your money you put in at this point. So make your own decisions. But as I say, we've got Tickery, we've got the ETXs. We may have some, we're going to have the app. The app is out. They're going to keep improving it. You're going to, I suspect they're going to make vast improvements on the app so that it is easier to have purchase tickets. But, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day. And so that's pretty much it. I could blather on. We're, I think, in two camps right now. We have some people who are thinking still that this is like the greatest company ever. I think it's as good as it has been. The promise hasn't changed. As I said yesterday, there hasn't been a major disappointment by the company. I think other than they were probably, the sin here was that on the preferred stock, they weren't as transparent as they should have been initially. And that then they allowed this Gold Panda guy to come out and drop the bomb on the number of shares, the 10,000 to 1. And I think that's where Humbl lost control of their own narrative. And that's the communication world. That's what, you know, the deal is. If you don't know, you can reach me on Gmail at Money and Politics Now. And I know a number of you have written to me, and that's great. I appreciate that. You can also follow me on Twitter, Money and Politics. I had several friends call me today, as you can imagine, that I'd gotten into the stock, and asked me what was going on, and they ended up buying some. My son, Thomas, who you've met, I have 3 sons, but my son Thomas bought some more. So we're not going out of business, folks. It's just, I think this is an unforced error, is what I would say. And I think Brian and his team should learn from it. If I was giving them any advice, and I thought this before, you know, yesterday in this match of sell-off, is that they need to have more communication. These investor calls are good, but when I go to the website and I look for, you know, to do these videos sometimes, just some documentation, and I'm looking for press releases, there needs to be more information. And I can understand that you want to, you know, money's tight. You don't want to put someone on staff when you don't need a full-time communicator, but, you know, get an ad agency or find somebody. There's probably a lot of retirees from PR firms and who have done this work. Hire someone on a part-time basis that you can call up to knock out a press release for you. You're gonna need to have better communications as you grow. So you gotta, I think you're still in this entrepreneurial mindset of Block 30 Labs where you weren't in the mindset of communicating as much as you need to. And I think you need to up your communications game. But that aside, I think the Humbl management team has been doing a great job of doing all that they did, the tickery, the getting the app out, getting ETX out, getting it in America. And so hopefully we'll just carry on. I'll shut up now. It always seems like when I'm talking for 5 minutes, and I look down, I've been talking for 15. All right, folks, hang in there. All right, get off the ledge. No need to jump. I think we'll end up being good. I think we just stubbed our toe, and we'll move on from this, okay? And in the meantime, master your emotions and save your money, okay? We'll see you tomorrow.